I'm good, Cap. How you doing?
Doing awesome, man. Looking forward to calling volleyball with you next week.
Me too. Listen, I spent a lot of years playing volleyball down at that beach and hope to see some friends, and I'm excited to be there with you as well.
I need a live YouTube feed of this thing. I need something. Or maybe I'll just show up to watch you guys.
Come on out. We're going to be at, what is the name of that place on the beach?
Well, it's North Avenue Beach. It's right at
Dick's Last Resort, or
No.
What's the name of the bar out there?
It's changed
Castaways.
a few times. Is that what
Castaways.
it is?
Castaways. There you go.
Castaways. So we'll be right out there, and it'll be fun. Looking forward to it. So let's talk about what the Bears did with their 53, because both you and I think Hoodie too, we wanted a developmental type player if they're signed into the practice squad at quarterback, and we got that with Austin Reed. Your thoughts?
I like, he's going to be focusing on the opponent's reps. It's not like he's going to get a lot of development in his own offense other than being in meetings and taking part of the game planning process. So he's going to become more familiar with the Tennessee offense week one and then the other offenses that he's going to put on display throughout the early portion of it. But, he was fed the entire playbook throughout the training camp process. He'll continue that process when he's in meetings, but it's going to be an opponent-centric for him.
How did you think he performed, knowing what was going on with backups and everything else? About what you expected? Did he exceed your expectations? Just curious, your scouting report after watching him.
He did a really nice job, and I think a lot of that is due as the quarterback coaching room with Shane Waldron and the rest of the quarterback staff. They allowed him to be part of the quarterback room. I think the process of feeding a young quarterback the information from the time that you start rookie mini camp, going on to OTAs and going through training camp and stuff, he did a really nice job. I think he complimented the room well. He had a good relationship with Brett Rippon and Tyson Bagent throughout that process, with everybody knowing that Caleb Williams is QB1 on this team. But, he comes in with a lot of college credentials, though. This is not the first time he's thrown a forward pass. He's thrown plenty of them, but now it's what you do with that 6'4", 220-pound frame to continue that learning process of the NFL.
Before we move on from that, I heard Waddle and Sylvie talking about it, and it's obviously, there for everybody to see, the fact that there's just not a lot of experience in that quarterback room, whether it be Reed, Caleb, or Tyson. Does that impact anything, in your opinion?
Not to me, it doesn't, because Caleb is a guy that's the man of the future, and if he goes through some growing pains, it's something that you're going to have to accept. I think Tyson Bagent is mature beyond his years. He's got a lot of college experience as well as Austin Reed. And I think Shane Waldron, again, I think he's done a nice job of developing the minds of these quarterbacks. But it's going to take time, because they're going to have to, or at least Caleb is going to have to understand the speed of the game, what he's going to see next Sunday at noon. And to me, I think this first game is going to be a defensive coordinator game. They have a new quarterback as well as the Bears do. So what are the defensive coordinators going to do that's a little bit unusual from what they've seen up until this point in both of their young NFL careers? So I think we'll have to take some special interest in either some sophisticated blitzes, some changes at the line of scrimmage, and try to put confusion in the mind of a couple of young quarterbacks.
In terms of looking at what Ryan Poles said yesterday, I want to start with what he said about the offensive line. It's the deepest group that I've had in the 3 years I've been here. Does not mean it'll be the deepest group in year 5 and in year 6, but today that's what we have to work with. Where are you on the offensive line? Part of it is the quarterback's got to get the ball out in 2.5 seconds. It's got to go. Tom Brady was saying again the other day, if it goes more than 2.75, I don't care what the offensive line does. It's my fault if I get sacked. The ball has to come out. Is that accurate?
That's 100% accurate. The ball, you have a process of the protection that you call in the huddle. And that's the catchphrase the offensive line is listening for. Okay, is it play action? Is it bootleg right or left? Is it an RPO? Is it a 3-step drop? Is it a 5-step drop? And then you know the time frame accordingly in that group up there in front of him. And so, when you think about Ryan Poles, yeah, Darnell Wright is a year older, a year more mature, and he's a solid right tackle right now, and he's got the ability to develop into one of the better right tackles in the league. But I still, if I look at the end of training camp, I still give it an incomplete in terms of what do I think of this offensive line? Because Nate Davis being in and out of the lineup, they brought Ryan Bates here to possibly be a starting center, and Coleman Shelton, to me, has won the job there. And then with Tevin Jenkins, if he plays at the level he has the ability to play at, he'll be one of the best offensive guards in this division immediately, and hopefully turns out to be one of the better offensive guards in the league as long as he is available each and every week. And Braxton Jones is a guy that is always going to be evaluated on his last performance. If he stays away from penalties, if he doesn't give up sacks, if he has the ability to be a point of attack offensive tackle on the left side and protect the backside of a right-handed quarterback, he's living up to all the expectations that you have for an offensive tackle. If both of these guys can stay on the field, the offensive tackle position, one of the most important positions on the offensive line, the Bears are going to be able to do some really good things. But I do think Coleman Shelton is a guy that's come in here and kind of settled this thing. Okay, let's everybody take a deep breath. I have an experienced center, knows how to call out the protections, knows how to make the adjustments at the offensive line, knows what linebackers and safeties to look at and where their responsibilities lie. So I think when you look at what Ryan Poles said, it is the best group of guys that he's starting the season with.
I want to stick with Braxton Jones. He burst onto the scene, and in a lot of ways, nobody knew exactly what he'd be as a later pick, and was solid. Here's my question: has he progressed the way that you would have liked? And I mean, he's got a great head on his shoulders. Like I could see another leap in his game as well if things go the way they should.
Super intelligent, doesn't make mental mistakes, understands all of his assignments, really going to the line of scrimmage. I have a lot of faith in him. The only thing I wish I knew about Braxton Jones is what improvements have you made in the weight room? Because when you're talking about a 6'5", 310-pound frame, there's got to be some strength there. Mm-hmm. You have good bendability. You have good feet movement. Are you strong enough to deliver a punch to a defensive end to create that stalemate where it gives you that 2 seconds time of protection by the offensive line? Are you making improvements in your lower body strength so you can become more of – you're not going to be a road grader Jimbo Covert type, but do you have the ability to use your strength and the length as an asset? And for what I know about Braxton Jones, I love the kid. Super intelligent, love talking to him. However, I wish I knew a little bit more about his weight room development.
It's funny you brought him up because I know last summer, I didn't ask Olin if he trained him this summer. I know last summer, 23, Olin worked with him. And I said, what can you tell me about him? He said, let me tell you something right now. Because Olin's direct now. I mean, that's what I love about him. He said, I tell him something one time, and I don't have to tell it again. He goes, and I can't say that about every guy that I've trained. Olin is like his gym. You better be on time, and if we're starting at 8, you better be warmed up at 7:45 ready.
Yeah.
And he said Braxton was great in that way.
The way I think about it, Tom, is he's got all the intangibles knocked out. Are the tangibles good enough to be the left tackle for Caleb?
Very good question.
For him to be the left tackle for Caleb Williams.
He does. He's got the intelligence. He's got the feet. He's got the length. He's got the hand punch. He's fortunate to have a good offensive line coach in Chris Morgan. But to me, guys, if you're 310 pounds, you better be close to benching 500 pounds. You better be there being able to squat, 550, like you better put that strength on display. Because if you're 310 and you're benching, 400, that doesn't impress me. And listen, I lived in the weight room and I know exactly what Olin, what he's all about in the weight room. And so impress me with strength. Don't make me go in there and watch a guy that's in the NFL and carrying around this body weight and he can't bench 400. That shows me that you're really not putting effort into the weight room that I need to see out of you. I don't care how quickly you can shake ropes or if you can turn over a tire or you can hit a tire with a sledgehammer. Show me what you can do with weight on the bar. And then I'll tell you a little bit about your work ethic in the off season.
The number one thing you are most confident in about this team and the number one concern that you go, that one concerns me.
The thing I'm looking forward to the most is the variety of offense that Shane Waldron is going to bring. I like the balance that he's already brought in the preseason. He's not putting too much on the shoulders of the quarterback to make him be the best player to make this offense run as efficiently as it can. He uses a wide variety of pass, throwing points, pass protections, and he understands what his strengths are and what his weaknesses are, and he uses all of them accordingly. My biggest concern is the run-stopping ability of the defensive line. Is Javon Dexter going to live up to the frame that he's been blessed with? Is Andrew Billings and Zach Pickens and now Chris Williams going to be able to stop a first down running game so they can put them in predictable second and third down so they can rush the passer? If you come up there and you're going to the line of scrimmage and it's always 3rd and 3, advantage offense, and then I have concerns about the interior of the defensive line and their run-stopping ability.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Austin Booker. How do you think he plays early into the season? Is he a factor? What do you think they do with him?
I think he's a factor. He's a naturally gifted pass rusher. He's not a good pass rusher because the defensive line coach is taking him aside and teaching him how to incorporate a move or having a second thought move if he gets stalemated at the line of scrimmage. He does everything naturally, and he's really good at making sure that he has a plan that is going to happen according to the down and distance, what hash mark they're on, how the play clock is winding down. Mm-hmm. If the offensive tackle does get his hands on me, what is my second move going to be? And it's difficult to get a solid punch on him because he rushes with his arms at length. He doesn't allow the offensive lineman to get his hands to them and then be in control of his body. He's really difficult to get a solid punch on him. And that's what I like about Austin Booker. He's not necessarily being coached every play. He's being refined every play.
Interesting.
In terms of when you watch the way this team has been constructed, they may not be the youngest team in the league. They're relying on maybe the youngest quarterback in the league, but there is veteran leadership in there. So for me, there's more of a level of expectation where this team can go than maybe a team that has got a ton of young players. They haven't taken a step yet. Do you agree with that perspective or no?
I 100% I do, because the thing about it is you have leaders like Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift that are willing to say something. Then you have guys like DJ Moore that leads by example. And then you have guys on the defensive side of the ball, TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds. It's important to them to be successful. You have Kevin Byard, I think, is going to be a good leader candidate in the defensive backfield. I like to see the outspoken Jalen Johnson. He's not necessarily attracting attention to himself. He's confident in his own ability. And so that's what you need out of the cornerback position. Tyreek Stevenson, Jaquan Brisker, Kyler Gordon, they're all developing at a rapid rate, and that's what Ryan Poles saw for him when he picked these guys. But now Montez Sweat, Darrell Taylor, Austin Booker, Daniel Hardy, do they all deliver the pass rush that kind of decides games at times? So there are a lot of key ingredients in place, but now they all have to feed off of each other.
Tommy, last thing that I have for you. you mentioned the run stopping defense, right? Is the secondary going to make the defensive line look better? Which normally it's the other way around, right? But I'm curious if it, in this case, it could be the reverse, where that good deep secondary actually makes the defensive line a little bit better, because a quarterback might have to hold on to the ball longer because guys are covered downfield.
Jess, that's a great point, because when you have a guy like versatile as Kyler Gordon, where he can play at the first, second, third level, he can become a blitzer, he can cover tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. You have guys with the size of Jaquan Brisker that is going to be physical in the interior of that defense, middle of the field, and deep middle. So I do think that this is a defensive backfield that can complement the front and the first level and second level of this defense. And because of the defensive backs' versatility and the unpredictability of where they can line up, you're going to have that quarterback that's going to break the huddle, and he's going to have multiple identifications that he's going to have to make sure that he's calling the right play according to the huddle call, and where the responsibilities or your vulnerabilities lie in the protections that you've already called in the huddle.
Okay, last thing from me. I know every coach, if I walked up to the coach of the Carolina Panthers, Dave Canales, and I said, what's your expectation? What's your goal this year? We're in it to try and win the Super Bowl. Great. You're not going to. You're not good enough yet. What if I said that to you, Tom? Give me realistic expectation for this football team if they're blessed with reasonable health. Nobody goes 17 games that doesn't have any injuries. That doesn't happen. But if Caleb is healthy and the key cogs are healthy, what is reasonable expectation for this team?
Buy a ticket for week 11 when the division games start, because the Bears are going to be able to gain a lot of experience, but the division is going to gain a lot of knowledge about what you're doing in terms of the Chicago Bears. If they can go in the second half of the season and be competitive within the division, win every division home game first off, and then go in and win a couple of the games on the road in the division, then you're talking about what you need to do in order to try to get into the playoffs. If you have any other goal than winning a Super Bowl and winning your division, then you're kind of fooling the fan base. So to me, it's about being competitive, and winning the division is the next step of success.
Let's go, man. I picked them to win the division. I know Detroit's really good. I know Green Bay has a really good roster. I just feel like there's a different, maybe I'm wrong, but you've been up there more than me this year. There's a different vibe around this team than I've seen in a long time.
Cap, in 85 and 86 and stuff, but the defense kind of carried a lot of swagger onto the practice field, and we as an offense had to live up to the swagger that they had. And I think I've seen a lot of that since the OTAs and mandatory mini camp that led into training camp, that the defense has some swagger that is spilled over to the offense being able to perform on a daily basis.
By the way, Waddle was telling us, he's told me a few times about this, that it was 89 or 90, he said we would literally be coming on the field and Dent would say to him, just don't turn the thing over. We'll worry about the scoring. Just don't turn it over.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, I've had McMichael say it to me a couple times. Just don't turn the ball over, Tommy, and we'll control this thing. So just don't turn it over.
That's awesome.
Hey, man, I'll see you next Thursday. I'll talk to you on the air before that, and enjoy your holiday weekend.
Yeah, you guys as well. Thanks.
Good talking to you, Tommy. You got it. Yeah, he's great. He's great. And by the way, though, about your prediction, of course, there's good vibes there. They drafted quarterback number one. Vibes doesn't.
They didn't have these kind of vibes when they drafted Mitch or Justin the first year.
Because there were more question marks with both those guys. There were. My point is, vibes don't win you divisions. So you might be right, but it's not because of vibes. It's going to be because of talent.
Vibes help. I told that to Shay. You're better than that. 312-332-3776.